right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of AGI, Anthony and Greg on Intelligence. I'm Anthony Moggio, and with me is Greg Prost. And today, on this session of episode here, we are going to, that was perfect grammar, by the way, we are going to be discussing use cases, because I think that's, we always try to give you a couple different viewpoints on things. So on our last episode, other than like having a dance club in here with the bass system, we are going to have like the big kind of overview, kind of more opining what's going on in AI, kind of, not really a use case, but just kind of like news, like kind of what's kind of new and happening with it, and some things that might happen with it. And so now we like to dive, we're going to dive deeper on this episode, and now we're looking at some use cases, right? So let's start unveiling a couple use cases for our audience. So Greg, what do you got to kick us off here?
I got a couple actually. The first one we just talked about briefly, but is sports betting. How about that one?
Oh,
This has just exploded here in recent years, and I think we've had conversations about the young and the problems that causes. And anybody who has ever bet in their entire life, and especially something like simple as football, and if you follow it and you're good at analyzing your bets, you realize that the betting line is extremely accurate, and that it's almost impossible to beat that betting line. And it basically boils down to the wisdom of the crowds. I can't remember if we talked about this before, but it's kind of been around for years and years and years, where if you have enough people making a decision on something, and the example I use is counting the marbles at a school fair, and if they take all the people's bets or average guesses, as long as there's enough people guessing, that the average usually is the best guess of all, and usually is almost exactly accurate. People are amazingly accurate in masses when they're all making decisions like this. And so the betting line that's the way it works, right? And there's a lot of smart people in that, so that line is about as accurate as it can be. And I think people are learning, it's tough to make bets here. But recently, of course, people are using ChatGPT. Like, tell me something a little bit different. And
how about that one lady that said she picked her lotto numbers from ChatGPT?
Well, that just came up
right?
recently. It's like, should I use a lotto number? And I said, what they didn't have the articles on the millions of other people who also did the same thing and didn't win anything, right?
What?
So that's
I thought
kind
AI was going to get us billions of dollars here.
Well,
what
start
is
with the stock pickers too, right? The same thing. They started off great, and everyone got all excited, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, they're getting crushed.
So kind of walk us through then. So what does it look like in how do they use it? What kind of changes, or how do they apply it in like a betting sense? Like what does that look like?
Well, it's really the perfect place to determine whether or not AI is better than a human being, right? So if it is, it should be able to beat the betting line. And when I say the line, the win, who's going to win and what the point spread is. That's about as the most accurate line you can have in sports betting. And so when an AI starts to get better than the line, it knows more. And right now, with the guys who I've talked to that are using it, it's basically taking all the newsletters and everybody's opinions out there, right? We talked about this. It's just a giant LLM and regurgitating what everybody says. And if somebody said this a little bit more, then it comes back and says, hey, their defense is a little bit better, but it's really regurgitating what people are saying. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee you there are people who are using it to come up with novel approaches, and everything from this coach against that coach, the time of day, the blades of grass blowing in the wind, to all these things, to that player. I know they're hurt. They're having trouble with their left knee, and they're going to have trouble moving left. And the guy that they're playing against is great moving to the right, and that's going to skew that side of the line. And they run a lot, 60% of the time, over on the left side, and it's going to get really detailed on the way it's analyzing thing all the way up to the last second. So I'm curious to see if you start seeing people, or a group of people making a lot of money betting. especially on sports. So I think that's an interesting one to follow, and we got a couple guys at work that I've talked to about, hey, keep using it, and tell me if it's ever getting any better. The second thing I wanted to talk about was we do bank research. We do research on all the banks in the country at my firm, and we've added an AI risk addendum. So this is kind of a little more pie in the sky, where we're trying to determine as people have AI on them, helping them work through their day and helping them with their finances, how is that going to affect banks that are outstanding out there?
So I would jump for a second here with me. So what I'm hearing you're saying is the AI in general, and whether it's business, sports betting, bank, whatever it is, the more information it has, the better it is than human aggregate, an analyst, whomever, whatever it is, with getting a most probable or correct outcome. Would that be
Yes.
Would that be kind of fair? So does that mean information becomes more sought? Because now you need to know if those players had a doctor's appointment or if they hurt their knee.
No question. I mean, look at the guys going to jail now or getting arrested now, with just a little bit of information. And I bet AI is good at determining whether or not a player is tanking or is on the mafia list that we've just, experienced here recently, because it notices that, hey, those three instances, those are in the 90th percentile. That's rare, and it happened 3 times. I'm going to bet against this team or this player or whatever it is. It's probably
it's beyond the statistics side of just happenstance.
I'm sure they caught the guys here recently, and that's why they caught them. I'm sure they're using AI type programs to sift through the data. So
with that, then I'm going to sidebar just a quick thing because when I was listening to you talk about that. So one of the side things, if you may or may not know about me, listeners, is I love mathematics, physics, astrophysics, all that stuff. I love science. It's fascinating. And you made me think of a philosophical concept that I had to ask my friend Perplexity here because I remembered it but not the name. It was from Pierre-Simon Laplace. I'm going to say it because I think it's French. That was my version of French. That's all you get. Back in 1814. All right, so this was 211-ish years ago, and here was the fascinating thing about Laplace. I'm going to say it different each time. Laplace. I'm going to go.
I think it's just Laplace.
It could be Laplace. I think you're probably correct on that one. So the idea in it is that so he theorized that if you had a super intelligent being, okay, so this is tying to the perfect information, right? Being AI, pick a thing. If it knew the exact location and momentum of every particle in the universe, then at one moment, so if right now it knew everything from the phone, the computer, you, I, the sun, the universe, everything,
the molecules
all over,
floating around,
everything exactly perfectly, then everything going forward, future, everything becomes a formula. There is no longer chance. Chance does not exist when you have perfect information of everything in every place at every time.
I think it had to know where everything was a millisecond prior as well. It's not just today where it is right now, but it needed a little bit of a running leap to know where it was going to be a millisecond.
And I think I think you're right, because that's about because it's also not only the location and the moment, but also
the velocity,
the momentum, and what is it doing? So that falls right into it. Yeah. So I think that's interesting because we're basically, and it makes sense. Right? There's nothing really unique about any of it. Even thoughts, right? There, thoughts. You put on the MRI, it's a bunch of neurons firing and synapses, and well, if you knew all of them, you'd know which ones would be firing next, which one, how. So you would know what the thoughts were going to be if you had all of the perfect information. So in this, the sports betting side, the more information it can get, it's just the more accurate it will be than being to outguess a random person guessing, right? Like,
Or a group of random
or even
people.
a group.
But that random group gets that answer right pretty accurately.
Oh, so here's a thought. Do they get it accurately because in summary, they have more perfect information? With my slice of information, am guessing, we use the marble example, okay? So here's the range for the marbles. We're going to go with this for the range. So my piece of information, I'm guessing here. Your piece of information that you know about everything, you're guessing, here. And their piece of information's here. So you get all of the ranges, which together you could say has, not individually, but combined, you have more perfect information. Is that more than just a statistical probability outcome and more about making decisions on having more information?
It is about more information. No, it's a perfect analogy. It's working like a computer. The more information, the more people making guesses, the more accurate the answer is going to be. On the marbles. So it's working the exact same way, and each person is their own little mini computer making, a one pathway thought onto what they think it is, right? And it takes all these together.
So every single, and the thing I love about your example is everybody is wrong.
Correct.
Until you combine everyone together,
right,
and then it's correct.
Right. Yeah, the computer sort of works that way too. In a way, it's taking all these paths and coming up with wrong answers and collecting all the right ones at the end, kind of like one of these binomial trees, that we run a lot in my business, right? And so you're trying to get a probability down. You're taking every instance that you can possibly think of and run, it can either go this way or this way, and then from that it can go this way or this way, 2, 4, 6, it goes exponentially out. And computer and AI is great at that, right? And inferences, right? Between information that you didn't even think was relevant. And we're talking about weather, football, outdoor game, indoor game, the turf, the area, whatever, the roar of the crowd, the time of day, is it a Monday night game, Sunday night game, all the
Which team had to travel?
Which team had to travel?
Is travel time?
Yep.
Jet lag.
We're talking college football. So the West Coast teams coming onto the Big Ten, having a noon game at Michigan, and it's UCLA. That's 9 o'clock in the morning for those guys. That's a different attitude, and they had to travel and all that.
Sea level could be different oxygen because you were used to playing at sea level, and now you're playing at 1,000, 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, you're playing Utah, whatever. Colorado. They have advantages. The Rockies, the baseball team, their stats are completely different than all the other stadiums. So, look, the batters are good at that, right? They're taking that into account. Is it going to be raining that day? These guys are better at running the ball and all those types of things. But I think AI will take it up a step and be able to really, hey, this player doesn't like playing when it's wet, or they fumble a lot more when the ball's slipperier, or
it's interesting.
Facebook post of their friend that mentioned that, hey, I saw him, he was limping a little bit at the party over the weekend. Just every possible angle that it can take.
Then the AI side could be saying, hey, so I'm going to use my my square feet above sea level because that makes sense. Feet above sea level side here. So we're going to have a team that, let's say, okay, there's a concern. They are not used to the thinner air, right? That's a legit thing. There should be everything being equal. One team is used to the air, one team is not, okay? Or humidity levels, pick whatever, atmospheric stuff. So let's say the AI is combing through the team's Facebook page, right? So the college team or whatever. And it sees in the background of one of the, they're doing some funny skit thing, for social media, but it sees the line practicing them in the background with the oxygen reducing masks, right? And I forget the name of, what I mean? So
sure.
You're breathing less air in, it's restrictive,
you're
right?
Practicing ahead.
So now the AI is going to go, well, wait a minute. If they're training for the lesser, higher elevation areas, well, wait a minute. Now it's no longer a automatic benefit to the home team. Now they just equalize that out, and maybe even more so if they're training even more stringent. Now all of a sudden they have even more. That's the stuff I think that the more information it has, it's just grabbing videos of somebody having a joke, dumping a bucket of water with Gatorade and ice or whatever on the coaches. And sure enough, it's picking stuff out that we're not even focusing on and bringing that into the more perfect information.
And even more so, things that you don't know about. So, Inflategate or even, the Patriots filming somebody else's practice at some point in time, and you're like, man, Belichick really has the Jets number. I don't understand how that is. Well, the AI will say, there's something there. I don't know what it is, but they obviously know more about this team, and somehow they're getting it. I don't care. I just can sense it in the numbers. I can see they know more about it. That type of thing. And we're not going to know, right? Because it's so good at it, right? But I do think it's a great test.
Good point.
The line is the line. It's been so accurate. So if an AI can beat the line and come up with different numbers, and that works for somebody, I just think that would be a significant leap. So we're just watching the betting market to see what's going on. I mentioned this.
Now, I was going to say, so how about for another case here? So we got betting, we got sports, we got all so So what would be like another?
We brought up this bank research stuff.
Bank research,
and I think this is a great one to talk about because nobody knows the answer here, right? There's no experts at AI and how it's going to affect the world here. We're here on this podcast. But
for the listeners then, let's give a little context. So I'm an average citizen. I don't know anything.
I'm a little above average myself.
More than every... I don't know any more or less. I'm not a specialist in any area. I'm just average citizen. The bank, why do I care about bank research? There's one on the corner or credit union or, I go bank over there because that's where the bank is. Like, why do I,
Sure.
what does this mean? Why do I care about these here?
And you're insured up to $250,000. So, for an average person, I don't think most people are going to have to worry about the credit research on their bank. I think most people are going to use AI to potentially change their bank because they're not getting paid enough. We've talked about that it's on you and it says, hey, you want me to help you with your finances? First thing is your bank's paying you 1%. I can get you 5% over here, and I can fill in all the forms for you and get this done. So I think we've talked about that before.
So you're looking at it from like, okay, so there's a couple sides. If I was going to have more than $250,000, maybe there's an inheritance, maybe we're settling in a estate, and I got just money sitting there because I haven't gotten through that yet. I'm dealing with
Or you're a treasurer.
stuff. Or for your job.
Yes.
There's a big piece. You're a treasurer, and you need to worry about the financial institutions because it's a core part of your responsibilities because even municipalities, businesses, you're only insured for that $250,000 on a checking and a savings. So you're going to be concerned about having tax money in the account. So the research side for a new treasurer that maybe they just got elected, they're learning how this goes. You want to make sure that your funds that you're in charge of, your fiduciary responsibility, is going to be in a bank that is going to be safe. That has, what are some of the things that you look at when you're looking at the research side?
So the first thing is asset quality. How many bad loans do they have? So every quarter, every bank in the country and every credit union has to post to the FDIC and NRUA for credit unions that all their data. So non-performing loans. A non-performing loan would be a loan that hasn't made a payment in over 60 to 90 days. Another thing they have to show is capital. So every bank has to have money sitting behind the scenes in case something happens that can cover losses. And that number can move up and down over time. Those are the two main numbers we're looking at because when you start losing money, it starts coming out of capital and you have to refresh capital.
And how often you said every
quarter. So it's a nice thing that this data is out there in the exact same way for every single bank.
How could you ever comb through all of that?
Well, that's, what Excel and spreadsheets, X number of years ago made it a lot easier.
Because that could change pretty quickly, right? All of a sudden, you could have a large loan. Let's say they had a big loan to, I don't know, an automotive supplier.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, like now, you have a a GM who's deciding to close down a whole lot of electric stuff that maybe
No question.
you were looking good and current, and now all of a sudden you just reported that a large loan is now what was the word you used?
Delinquent.
Okay, just delinquent.
Yeah.
And
And
you
then
think of our jobs daily. Every single bank that you may have money with, are you waiting and pulling up every quarterly report that they submit? And which is probably going to vary. They're not probably all at once. So you're going to keep checking.
No, well, the FDIC, they have rules, so they all have to be in there by a certain date.
So now you're going to hit that date, and you're going to have to stop what you're doing every day, your daily work, because we all have enough staff to do everything.
Yeah.
And now I got to go pull up the reports. I have to comb through one page of documentation. I'm guessing it's not a page.
No, it's all different places. Obviously, you're pulling it in. We're trying to pull it into one spot, but yes.
So
sure.
so that's insanity to me. I don't even. There is no way anybody is doing this. You have to use some sort of tools in that, spreadsheets, those sort of stuff.
Correct.
So what would it look like with AI as a use case? Because it seems
AI can do this. So
it seems like a much better use of time, speed, massive amounts of data. Maybe you grabbed the wrong data, you looked at it right, whatever.
no question. And in fact, so there are banks that have had trouble. If you've been a treasurer for an extended number of years, although the economy's been in good shape for a long time, and especially if you don't remember 08, 9, 10 when all those banks failed, you still had some scares here. We have a bank here in the state that has as a large bank that has struggled recently, and so I get questions by the bankers, asking about, why are you rating us this way? Trying to tell everybody, rate everybody the same way. Well, we're unique, right? There's a reason why. We had one loan go bad, and that's the only loan. It's not related to the other loans. And I always say, hey, that's great. I love your story, but we're going to rate everybody the same way. We're looking at this is consistently telling us historically a story. And of course, there's outliers. There's one-offs and that kind of thing. But I'm not going to believe you. I'm looking at the numbers. If it shows up next quarter that it stops and that's the only bad loan you have, okay, I'll believe you once I see it, right? But there are patterns to this. And so I said to the president of the bank, who was kind of asking us lots of questions, and I said, look, he says, what are you telling people? And I said, well, I'm telling people is, first of all, pay attention and read our report. Read some other reports out there, and then go ask ChatGPT and say, I'm a treasurer in Michigan. I have more than $1 million with this bank. I'm concerned because their asset quality and blah, 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 on this report. What do you think I should do? And as I'm telling him, he's backing up. I think I may have told him, he's backing up. Like, what does it say? I'm like, I don't know what it says. I don't know every single bank, but, I can't believe you're not doing it. So it got us thinking about, all right, hey, you shouldn't just use our report, run a chat report, and you can have it condensed down. And I just did a bank. We just got asked a question yesterday, so I ran a bank through deep research. Deep research on ChatGPT, I hadn't done one in a couple months, like a really deep research. It ran for almost 30 minutes. I was shocked at how long it ran.
Wow.
And it gave me this big, long dissertation. I said, hey, condense it down to a couple pages, act like a Moody's analyst, and, give me some pictures and some thoughts on it. And I thought it would take 10 seconds since I had already done the work. And it took another 8 or 9 minutes on thinking mode. I was really shocked at how long it took. It was nice. It was a great report. All right, but we're concerned about AI. So we're trying to say, all right, let's think outside the box. What happens if you have it on you and it's helping with your finances, and it says, hey, your bank's not paying you a fair rate. Do you want to change banks? And in a normal world, it'd be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not changing all my checking account, all this kind of stuff. I don't care about my bank because I don't borrow any money there. My check's just going through there. But I'm not going to change. If they're paying me 2%, whatever, I don't. But if AI says I can do this for you, put your thumbprint here and I'll just do all the work for you, then once that happens and it comes back again and says, hey, I can get you another percent, here 2 days later, it's like, just go ahead and do it, right? I think that's one thing I talk about probably more than I should, and this is a big deal. I just don't understand how people don't understand that if it's on you, helping you, you're just going to let it kind of run. So, we take a step back and we like, okay, what does the world look like in that kind of situation? So if your bank's paying a low rate relative to everyone else, you're going to be a lot more vulnerable, right? That makes sense. And it's interesting. There's a bunch of banks out there that pay low rates. They know they pay low rates. They know they have a captive audience that's not going to move, and they can get away with it. And that's kind of their business model, and you can identify them. And a bank like that's going to be more at risk.
So use case where this could be interesting here. Okay, so here's the example. So Greg, you mentioned we want to invest something. So let's use $10,000. That'll be something. Let's just keep it a simple round number. So we used AI and we said, okay, what banks? I have some money to invest. I have $10,000 to invest. What am I getting right now? Where can I get the most for me? Right. So we're still right now asking it to do something. That's the generative AI, right? So I have to prompt it still. It's not automatic yet. And the difference I found was pretty staggering. And you say like, oh, maybe, it's a couple percent or whatnot. So for the listeners here, here's the difference. We've had everything, and it gives a list of banks and the amounts and everything from 0.4%. So that would be, essentially nothing, up to 2%, 175, 4%, 275. And so you say, okay, well, that's a couple percent. Like, it's not whatever. What's a couple percent, on $10,000? But we come in at, well, who's the highest one? And we won't do product placement here, so I'll leave the name off, but it's a credit union, 8%.
We did this ourselves, right?
Yes, so we won't say the name. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name.
No, and I didn't believe it when you first came up with this
yes.
months ago, and I went and looked at it, and it's true.
8%. So now you're talking, you might be, and I'm going to talk in generalities, usually, not always, caveat, the larger the bank, the less they need your money. So the less they need your $10,000 you're investing, then the rates are lower. They don't care as much. Now you have $100 million, they might talk to you a little bit differently. You're a municipality, you have more money, it's not 10,000, maybe it's 100,000, maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's whatnot. But we say 8%. So if I'm a municipality with, $100,000 to invest, this is a safe investment. And we say safe because, we run it through the bank check. Are the assets good? Delinquent loans? Everything's looking good. So I do. And by the way, this wasn't.
And you're fully insured at 100,000.
Yeah. And at 100,000, it's fully insured. And this was not a CD. This was just put money in the checking account. It may have been a savings account, but either way, it's just put the money in the account. So not only are you insured for $250,000, so all of your money is insured by sitting there in no investment vehicle, but the rate comparison was essentially 4.4% to 8%. So you're earning almost double the return with just taking a few seconds and having you do in a few seconds of just typing it to the AI. The AI spends its 3 to 5 minutes doing all the research and all the data and grabbing everything. And you just made your business, municipality, you just made free money, right? You doubled the return with zero risk because it's insured. It's under the 250,000 amount. So you talk about something that takes a couple seconds to do, to earn, another $8,000 over a year.
You can do this now if you just Google it. You could probably find pretty much the same thing. But people won't do it because they're lazy, right? It's going to take work to change over. I'm not. We talked about this months ago. I didn't go right to that bank and get the 8% on my personal money. I didn't do it.
I still have not.
No, yeah, right. Because we're lazy. But if my
But it's
AI
not
said,
as
if my
easy,
AI
though,
said,
right?
you want me to do this for you? It's like, can you? Because I don't want to have to do anything.
I got to
And it
set up
says
an
yes.
account. I got to get my driver's license.
Yeah.
I got to fill out the social security card stuff. I got to be a non-terrorist organization or NTO or whatever they call them in the bank stuff. It's a pain in the butt.
Money laundering.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
and all
not,
that.
I don't know, some
But yeah,
bad country.
And so this whole agentic part, right? It just keeps coming back to this. When the AI, your AI can do this for you, and it's getting closer and closer, then why wouldn't you? And so that's what we're talking about. All right, how do we analyze that? How do we come at it a different way? It's not going to be perfect. We're going to have to change the stuff on the fly, but we're always just trying to think, what does the world look like 2-3 years from now, and how is that going to affect investments here?
And I love that as the example and the talk, because this is real. These are real use cases that benefit you, benefit your municipality, if you're a treasurer, your business, yourself, just as a personal invest, just having your own account, right?
Yes.
Open an account at one of every bank and then just move the money to wherever one has the money, I guess. But the interest rate. So I think that is fascinating to see this start coming, and I think you're right on. The next step will be that automation side. Right? It's going to buzz you in your ear, in your head, your AI headset, glasses and stuff, and it's going to go, hey, they're running this new special right now. First, $100,000 is going to be 10% for the next 6 months. Do you want in?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Just say yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thumbprint, poof, money moved, accounts set up. Done, and here's your free money for.
So more
go
and
back
more
to your
banks,
pina colada.
and more banks will do that if they know that you can find them,
Yes,
right? And that makes it even tougher for the banks that are paying even lower rates. So
I love that.
Self-fulfilling.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us once again, Anthony and Greg on AGI, and we appreciate you. We do. So, stay tuned for another exciting episode. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.